Good morning, friends. Hello. We're continuing now with our Egoic Lotus webinar book. This is commentary program number 58, and we're working in the last of the 9 usual petals in the sacrifice tier, with the colors yellow, orange, rose, blue, and indigo. And we have reached point number 26. This is part 2 then of the synthesis for petal number 9, and we are working about concerning the various rays that are implicated in this petal and the manner in which they are implicated. We've discussed Ray 5, of course, in relation to the Satori, the enlightenment, the transfiguration, the third initiation. It is, after all, the petal that leads to the third degree, and Sagittarius has a great deal to do with that, with the 5th ray, which is most prominent. The Ajna Center and a number of its different capacities are involved in the work of this petal. So I do notice that we have left out ray 6. We'll talk about the degree to which the 6th ray may be involved in the aspiration involved in this petal through Sagittarius and perhaps the sense of direction, even though this initiation, the third, is not approached through high aspiration. Yet it is a quality which never dies, and when Master Morya says to strive fierily, I don't suppose he conceives that at any time in this initiatory process it will be discontinued. Anyway, looking at these different rays as they may be involved here, the 2nd ray stands for the union of heart and mind, and this comes in through Jupiter and also through Venus. This petal is about the enlightenment and the Satori, the bursting in of a reality in a manner that illusion cannot veil. DK has told us that the most luminous souls are the 2nd ray souls. The word of power there is, I see the greatest light, and we're beginning to deal with light supernal. The Capricorn motto or mantram, lost am I in light supernal, yet on that light I turn my back. This is something that is achieved at the 3rd degree. The soul gains the majority. The light supernal brings in, I think, the 2nd ray and the 5th ray. The 5th ray lord is the most luminous of the ray lords, and there's something about the light of life itself which is joining in, coming in on the 1st ray. Anyway, the soul here is the 2nd aspect of divinity, and at this point, with the full unfoldment of the 9th petal, the soul wins the day and stands, as it were, upon the mountain top of consciousness, able to perceive reality in a new way for the first time and with consistency. Ray 2 stands in a Jupiterian manner for the expansion of consciousness, and interestingly, we are undergoing here what is called the crisis of initiation. This is the real initiation, as the hierarchy conceives it, and the word associated with that crisis is expansion. It's connected with Capricorn. It's also a crisis of inclusion, which transcends the usual duality of soul and personality. there is a sense in which all is seen as soul, in this unity of consciousness, which is characteristic of the second ray. And we're really beginning our work in earnest with inclusive reason, and which is a Buddhic faculty, and we can begin to understand that. So Jupiter, a planet of completeness, ray 2, a ray of synthesis, at least in our solar system, and we are at the point where we are completing the work of the 9 petals, and that is a synthetic moment. All is gathered into the realized light. So certainly the second ray is powerful here, because the soul gains dominion, and the soul represents the second aspect. A great light breaks forth. Maybe it's not the greatest light yet, but it certainly is a great light. And the word of power, I see the greatest light, leads along this path of the great light to a still greater light. Well, what about the third ray? Certainly it is the third initiation, so by numerical resonance, the number 3 comes into prominence. We stand upon the mountain, which represents the matter of the third aspect of the third ray, and we are bringing what represents in ourselves the earlier solar system to a stage of elevation, always Capricorn, which is connected with the third ray too, brings about elevation, at least when it is properly pursued along the right-hand path. So you have a facility here with the monastic permanent atom, which is the third of the atoms in the spiritual triad, and in a way it's the third from below. We can blend the mental unit and the monastic permanent atom, so we have the physical permanent atom, astral, and then monastic permanent atom. It's the central permanent atom. We are standing here on solid ground, spiritually considered, and so much of karma is under our feet, not just in theory, but in reality and in the spiritual sense. We see the unity, and we have the confidence to reveal the unity. So we have moved beyond the customary dualities with which we are so familiar, and through the abstract mind, as enriched by the intuition, we can comprehend the unity we are now increasingly seeing. So this is bringing the third aspect to a high point and finding the possibility for it to be infused by the second aspect. It's a blend of the 2 and the 3. Okay, whenever there's an initiation, we have to look at its number. And by numerical resonance, the first initiation will involve ray 1 in some way, and the second ray 2, and the third ray 3, and the fourth ray 4, and the fifth ray 5, even though the rays assigned to those initiations on page 340 of rays and the initiations is quite different, with the first initiation having ray 7 assigned to it, the second ray 6, the third ray 5, and the fourth ray 4. I guess that's the same, and the fifth ray 1. But all of those assignments are true. It's just a question of understanding how the rays work in relation to the process being undergone. Now, what about the fourth ray? Well, we're having a transfer here from the human kingdom into the kingdom of souls, the human kingdom, the fourth kingdom. We are definitely members now of the kingdom of souls, and that in a new way from the time when we were probationary initiates for the first and second initiation. So it's a fuller entry. And the fourth ray is instrumental in bringing about a fusion between soul and personality, which is a harmonizing of soul and personality. The Ajna center, so important in this particular initiation, is ruled by Mercury at a certain point in the initiatory process. We're sort of midway between the monad and the persona. So it's a point of mediation, ruled by the fourth ray. The fourth ray brings in Buddhi, the mediating energy of the seven cosmic subplanes. We're becoming at this point, having overcome the animal nature to a very significant extent, a true human being. And we're becoming the true expressive member of the fourth grade of hierarchy. There is a big conflict here as well, a fearful conflict, DK calls it, before the third degree. And whenever there is conflict, we have to suspect the presence of the fourth ray. Well, we are the true human being now, and the master of the wisdom is the climax of the of human development. Is the human kingdom almost left behind? When did we start to leave the human kingdom behind? Well, even at Initiation 1, we're still very much human beings, but we're entering the fifth kingdom. So we're really straddling two kingdoms, the spiritual kingdom and the human kingdom, even at Initiation 1. So now we are at Initiation 3. And for the first time, we're really a human being instead of, an animal as well. The animal nature is greatly subdued. Mars is greatly subdued. We have defeated that aspect of Mars, and Mars is the ruler of the animal kingdom. So to be truly human is to take the third degree. Up until that time, Mars presents quite a problem. Interesting, though, the Sagittarius should be connected with this petal, because it has a lot to do with the animal kingdom, ruled as it is by Ray 6, very much by Ray 6, or at least expressing Ray 6. And with Sagittarius we have that zodiacal component which combined with Gemini to bring about individualization of animal man in the early days. So Sagittarius, the centaur, had a lot to do with animal man, and yet at this point we are overcoming the animal nature. Well, of Ray 5 I have spoken. We're into full luminosity here. This is the light supernal. Well, I mean, at least it's so full compared with anything we've been able to achieve thus far. Sagittarius is the yearning after the light, and Capricorn is the conferral of the light. It's so interesting how at least a couple of the earth signs have a lot to do with the light, and yet you would think of them as being the densest. But Ray 5 is giving us the light of the kingdom of souls, which we begin to appreciate in a new and immediate way at the third degree. And it gives us the light of the solar angels and of the fifth grade of hierarchy, again appreciated far more immediately than before this point of Transfiguration. About Ray 6, well, I've said a few things about it. Maybe it is not so prominent here, except Sagittarius is prominent, and when before the third degree we are still, of course, yearning for the light, striving towards the light, and it is the third degree, and 6 is related to the 3. DK tells us the 2 3s make 6. He talks about special relations between some rays based upon a numerical mathematical relation. 2 1s make the 2, 2 2s make the 4, 2 3s make the 6s, thus the first and second. The second and fourth and the third and sixth rays have an important relationship based upon that mathematical relationship. You see that with rays 1 and 2, at least in one way. They represent the great pairs of opposites. They represent two excuse me, distinct approaches. And it's so interesting that in the occult groups of the modern times, the majority of the souls are either ray 2 or ray 1. When it comes to rays 2 and 4, there's a point of transference involving them. And there are a number of fourth ray types or souls that transfer easily onto the second ray. And they both have so much in common in terms of mediation. Ray 2 between the 3 rays of aspect. It's the middle point. And ray 4 between all the 7 rays. It's the middle point. So harmony and beauty, they both share that. For ray 3 and ray 6, the idealism is strongly there. And the tendency towards abstraction. Just the way we have abstract thought connected with ray 3, we have abstract devotion connected with ray 6. So it is a strong ray of abstraction. Of course, it can be very concrete in the objects of its devotion, but its higher aspects have a similarity with ray 3. And ideation and idealism, these two go together. Abstract ideation, abstract idealism. So, again, although the 6th ray will not confer upon us the 3rd degree if unaided by other rays which are still more related to it, especially the 5th and the 2nd, it can assist in the general process of approach to this degree. Well, ray 7. The soul and the persona are meeting. Ray 7 can rule the ajna in relation to the astral chakras, interestingly enough. Organization is coming in, and that's related to one of the theme words of the 3rd degree, integration. We are organizing the energy systems of soul and personality in relation to each other, and they are becoming productively interactive. The sense of direction, of course, that's interesting because that does connect with Sagittarius and maybe to a degree with the 6th ray and also the 1st. The origin of the 7th ray, well, the atmic principle is the 7th principle. And there is something to do with the organizing power of the will, Atma, for which the 7th ray is the concrete expression. So the highest and the lowest are meeting here in the sense that the integrated personality is meeting with the monad via the mediation of the soul. So we're learning how to successfully embody the soul, and when we're dealing with embodiment, that is the 7th ray. We are concerned now with the building and using of the lighted house of the causal body in which our consciousness can be focused. And our foot is, so to speak, upon matter, which is connected with the mineral kingdom and with the 7th ray. So high energies within us are meeting the lower energies directly, and that is always the linking power of the 7th ray through which the highest and lowest meet. We're meeting the one initiator here in due time, and that initiator plays the role of Uranus, and Uranus is the major seventh-ray planet. There's a new etheric condition created when transmutation is completed. So the monad is entering in fuller measure the etheric body through the mediation of Uranus, which is brought into expression through the work of the Hierophant, who plays the role of Uranus in this particular initiation. We're meeting Sanat Kumara. He is Uranus. We're not meeting him face to face, but we're meeting him as the supervisory star. He is the Hierophant. And we're completing the structure of the first aspect of the Lotus, interestingly related to the third ray, as I've said, whereas the three synthesis petals to the second ray and the jewel to the first. So the highest and the lowest are meeting. Maybe the permeation of the lowest by the highest is not complete. That tends to occur more at the fifth degree and probably through a Maya Virupa. But the monad is involved here. And this is, in a sense, a spirit and matter initiation. Well, what about Ray 1? You know, it does represent the monad in general, the monad met consciously. So spirit is coming into the equation, and the candidate, the initiate, recognizes the presence of spirit and identifies as spirit. The generic Ray 1 meaning of spirit is brought forward here. It doesn't make any difference what your monadic ray may be. And some of the work between the lowest or base of the spine center and the crown center, the highest head center, is beginning in earnest. Some of the Kundalini experiences are working starting from the third degree, at least in a more controlled manner. A few other things, you know, Ray 7 relates specifically to Capricorn. Capricorn brings in more Ray 7 at this time than any other constellation. And this is the exemplary Capricornian initiation, the third. I talked about the etheric reorganization. That involves the seventh ray, so that the etheric body can carry more of the soul influence. But perhaps Ray 2 and Ray 5 are the most influential at this initiation. Venus and Sirius are two major influences here, and their rays are 2 and 5. Well, actually, they have very similar rays, I think. I suspect the personality ray of Venus and Sirius both are 2, that the soul ray of both are 5, that the submodanic ray of both are 6, and that the highest of the monadic rays for both will be the second ray. So it's almost like Venus is a replica of Sirius on the planetary level. And just as Venus has had a tremendously rapid evolution, one wonders if in a stellar sense Sirius has had that kind of rapid evolution. Just as the Christ within humanity, representing both of these, has had the most rapid evolution. Okay, so that's all of the rays, I think, and how they can relate to this petal in which we are approaching the third initiation through our labors and taking the third initiation through our abnormal labors and through the application of the rod of initiation. You know, we have to realize that it will not always be the case. It is the case in this round that the hastening method of initiation, this kind of divine intervention, is applied. But it has not been so in the past, and it may not be so in the future. And therefore, the unfoldment of the petals, the last three petals, will depend very much on the man, and maybe, if there is a solar angel, what that solar angel can do, but not at all then upon the application of the rod of initiation with its hastening potencies. Now we're into the point number 27. It's a question of the colors of the petals and their meaning: yellow, orange, rose, blue, and indigo. Well, the yellow is certainly mental, and this is a strong petal for the abstract mind, but it's also Buddhic. It relates to Ray 4 and Ray 5, and in an interesting sense, Ray 3, in terms of expressing the monad, the third ray monad. It's an esoteric color for Ray 4 and Ray 5. So yellow represents Manas. When it is ready to fuse with Buddhi, and Buddhi Manas is the key here for both. Buddhi Manas is coming in strongly at the development of this petal. And I also have to say that since this is the sacrifice petal, yellow is the color associated with sacrifice and with the fourth ray, which is the ray ruling the law of sacrifice. So the yellow has a very important meaning in all the sacrifice petals, but especially in this one, which is the most characteristically sacrificial and involves what Master DK calls the utter sacrifice of all forever. Now we look at the color orange. It's the luminous mind of a solar nature. So the solar angels are arriving at a point of climax. Now all is assured. This is the 9th orange petal. Orange is found in every single petal and is a color that has directly to do with the solar angels and with the 5th ray. Its complement is blue, which is the 2nd ray. It's interesting. So there is completion here of the orange. And after this 9th petal, we don't know what other colors may be involved in the synthesis petals, but we're told they are of a beautiful lemon hue. There is no more orange. There's only yellow as the color of Buddhi. Yellow is a mental color, of course, but also relates to the transcendental mind that we find on the Buddhic plane. And Mercury also has to do with this transcendental mind, the mind which appreciates or which works through pure reason. Then there comes, the rose color. Let's see if there it is. The rose color. It seems to be in the central position here for petal number 9. And desire is on its way to true love. This is Neptune. And there's a rising up towards the intuition. The higher point of the solar plexus is still involved. And Neptune is one of the great planets of intuition, and its color is blue and also rose. So rose is related to Venus and Neptune, and it also relates to the Buddhi necessarily, or to a way of invoking Buddhi. I would say that rose is related to the relationship between the astral body and the Buddhic vehicle, especially when love is characterizing the astral, as it does increasingly after the second initiation, if all goes well, of course. So there comes a time when rose does not only signify that which is astral, but also I think that which is Buddhic. Certainly the connection between them is mediated by rose and also by blue. DK does so often use the color rose when assigning meditations for the astral vehicle, but there's something about it which really invokes the Buddhic energy, and it's so interesting that the cross which must be overturned is the rosy cross. So that's linking to the fourth degree necessarily, and the fourth degree links to Buddhi. What about the blue, which shows here uncharacteristically? It's because there is no duplication of the yellow. The only duplication that occurs is in the fifth petal, where the rose is duplicated. There's a double expression of the rose. You might expect that maybe somewhere in the Petals of Sacrifice there would be a double expression of the yellow, but there is not. And that double expression of the yellow would naturally come in the ninth petal. Maybe, well, you can't really speculate meaningfully, but maybe in the next solar system, which is going to be of the first ray, there will be a double expression of the sacrificial color. But then we don't even know what the egoic lotuses will be like, and even on what level they will be found. DK seems to hint that much of what now takes place within the egoic lotus will be taking place within the monadic vehicle. In any case, those are just imaginings and speculations. But the blue is coming here because the soul is emerging into prominence, and the second ray is becoming stronger, and the astral nature is becoming love. But what if blue is the version of ray 1 in a ray 2 system? It's interesting that there is that chart or tabulation in Letters on Occult Meditation where blue is given to the first ray and red to the sixth. Well, one can understand the usual ray 1 color red as related to the sixth through Mars, but blue is given to the first ray, and sometimes you see the men in blue, the security forces or police forces are dressed in blue, and they wield the first ray, albeit for second ray purposes. There is a connection, though, of the blue with ray 1 and ray 2. This connection is seen through the monad, which is a ray 1 center on a ray 2 plane. And the question arises here, what if the blue is sapphire blue? We're told that Sanat Kumara sits upon the sapphire throne. He is a great combination of rays 1 and 2. Also, it came up that Sanat Kumara is sometimes called the Yellow Dragon. He is the fourth Kumara, as well as the first from another perspective, and being the fourth Kumara, he will relate to the color yellow. Blue as a directing color, blue as a color which again links the astral and the Buddhic. When we think of the Buddhic plane, it is yellow for the man, blue for the planetary logos, and violet for the solar logos. Blue does have a direct connection with the astral plane, but also with the higher second ray vehicle. So it is a bridging color. I mean, we notice that DK assigns it both to the sixth ray and to the second ray. So as the sixth ray color, it's connected with the astral plane, and he tells us, as an example of the fading out of the sixth ray, the blue flowers will begin to disappear, and the violet flowers will take their place. But it is also definitely connected with Jupiter, with the second ray, with the soul, with the higher mind as the complement of orange. So it has a second ray component as well as a 6-ray component. And I think, again, it's put here as a bridging color. We are completing the transference of the solar plexus to the heart. Interestingly enough, in one point, the heart center is related directly to the Buddhic plane. So we're going from astrality to Buddhi via the blue. We can do that to an extent via the rose color also. Those are bridging colors. Red, in that sense, is not a bridging color. If you have red in the astral vehicle, it indicates a condition of primitivity or savagery or rampant desire. It's not a rising color in that sense, but rose rises. I think you can even feel that as you visualize rose, breathe it in. I think you can feel the rise, and with the blue, I think it is also there. I mean, we have different types of sensitivities to different colors, and I think every student owes it to himself or herself to find the particular types of color sensitivity that they have, because they will be clues. Those sensitivities will be clues relating to their structure, their ray structure. Well, indigo we do find in petal 9 and 6 and 3. It is the synthetic color, and it belongs with the third in the series of petals, which have a synthesizing effect upon all that is transpired before in the particular tier. Ray 3 synthesizes the knowledge tier, Ray 6 the love tier, Ray 9, or not Ray 9, but petal petal number 9 anyway. Did I say Ray 6 earlier? I meant petal number 6 synthesizes the love tier. Petal number 9 synthesizes the sacrifice tier, and really all the tiers. And then we move on into the field of real synthesis, more complete synthesis under the guidance of Buddhi. So this indigo is a Ray 2 color, yes, but it is the esoteric color of Ray 5, which is very interesting because of how important Ray 5 is for the illumination achieved in this petal. So orange and blue will blended be, we are told, in the old commentary. And through indigo, that is, in a sense, correct. The Ray 5 has its very strong Syrian nature, and we can imagine Sirius in relation to the indigo color. Venus is more the orange, at least exoterically, but it relates as well to the complement of orange, blue, to rose, and to indigo as well. So the indigo at this stage is connecting us with Sirius, and we are really and fully in the Syrian mode of initiation as it applies to our particular planet. It doesn't mean we're necessarily on the path to Sirius. That's a different thing. DK gives the indigo as the color of Libra with its Venus rulership. So Libra as indigo. Interestingly, a point of balance is reached. I think the third degree represents a point of balance. From another point of view, a point of equilibrization before destruction is reached just before the fourth degree. And so Libra would apply to that point before the causal body is destroyed. Anyway, with indigo and under indigo, our major synthesizing color in our solar system, we have a major unification of soul and personality. The higher Ray 5 aspect is correlating with the cosmic Christ and with Sirius. Sirius is here suggested. The luminosity of the cosmic Christ. And if you study the wonderful statements in the old commentary having to do with each Ray Lord, you will see how very Christic the fifth Ray stanzas are. they have so much to do with the love aspect. It's a blending of the 5 and the 2, as D.K. told us to attempt. He says you usually consider ray 2 and ray 6 together, but please consider ray 2 and ray 5 together. Ray 5 is the great connector, the three minds unite. Of course, in its lower aspect, it rules the law of cleavages, and orange can be separative and discriminative. But in this particular case, under under indigo, ray 5 is unitive and synthetic. So ray 2 and 5 together, Venus and Sirius. And if indigo is the higher color of ray 5, which DK tells us it is, we see the connecting potential of ray 5, which is a higher potential and is emphasized in some stanzas, though not usually in the thought of students. So, 4 colors at the Ajna center are Buddhically connected at this stage of development. Now, at the Ajna center, we have the blue and the indigo, and we have the rose and the yellow and the rose. We're not talking about orange here, although orange can be a standard color related to ray 5 at the Ajna, but 4 of those colors in the Ajna center are all connected Buddhically at this point. The absorbing color is the indigo. Well, I'm sure there are deep mysteries here in the divine construction as to why these particular colors should appear in this petal, in this vortex. And the further we go, the more we will know about this. Our first task, of course, is to so clear our perceptual abilities that we can see these things at first hand. That is very important, and then we can know for ourselves instead of having to know in a mediated and reasoning manner. All right, we have reached point 28. Are there additional colors which can be linked to this petal's process? We have the additional colors red, green, and violet. Well, if red stands for the monad and the will, of course orange can also be used for the first ray, but and red is not found apparently in the egoic lotus colors, but red is one of the colors that can link to the first ray and to the monad. There's also the blue-white diamond idea, the electric blue, connected with the monad, and maybe that can come through to a degree, the blue that is here found. But even though those who have the first ray soul will have, I think, red somehow visible within the egoic lotus, we will find no red in the petals per se. This seems to be the implication. But red as a color can be linked to this point when the monad is becoming a conscious factor for the candidate. What about green? Well, nature is rising to its highest peak. One of the color of Capricorn is given as green, but blue is taking over. So the green and the blue are meeting here. The mountain is, in a sense, the green, and the sun rising upon the mountain at the Transfiguration represents the blue. It's a point of importance reached within the personality and destined to be reached by our planetary logos as he blends the green and the blue. We can understand how important Capricorn would be in this blending. Let's take a look also here at the color violet, which is not included. Well, it's the state of diamond soul. The violet and the white are connected with the seventh ray. The Hierophant is Uranus, and violet, and white and violet are opposed. So we are in the diamond light, and we are entering the state of diamond soul. The diamond soul is the perfected form, seventh ray. Violet and the seventh ray tell us about perfection. The jewel in the lotus is being revealed after the third degree. And so this is the promise of the perfection to come. Complementary colors are brought together here in this ray, in this petal. There is the factor of inclusion. There's lots of duality that is blended, and a general rounding out here of the whole process. It's a process millions of years long. How long will it take when average humanity who has been incarnated on this globe is still working in the petals of ignorance? They still have not unfolded the third petal, and that's been 21 million years, or, well, maybe 18 million years for some, or a bit less, but then they have unfolded even fewer of the petals. It takes a long time. So by the time we reach the unfoldment of this ninth petal, the sacrifice petal, just millions of years have occurred. Maybe even, as I said before, 25 million years, or if incarnation took place on the moon chain, even more. Well, red, green, and violet are not involved in the petals demonstration, but they can be linked in the various ways that I have suggested. On the basis of color, we have rays 4, 5, 6, and 2 indicated. Yellow, of course, suggests ray 4, and the Buddhi Manas. Sometimes yellow ray 5, sometimes ray 4, and even, as I said, ray 3. It's a very mercurial color, and the role of Mercury in the development of the human being is emphasized through the yellow. So at this point in development, all of these factors related to yellow are involved. The brilliant mind in pursuit of higher knowledge, ray 5. Ray 4, the ability to link the pairs of opposites and fuse and blend them, becoming the soul-infused personality. And ray 3, the broad overview in which the human mind enters an aspect of the mind of God through the spiritual triad, through the monastic permanent atom of the spiritual triad. With orange, of course, ray 5 is there, and the power of the mind is increasingly intensified. It's quite brilliant by the time we reach this ninth petal. The rose color, we think about transcendence and the sublimation of the astral into the Buddhic nature. That's the ray 6 giving us rose. It's not one of the ordinary colors, it's not one of the colors of the spectrum, but it is definitely connected with the sixth ray and the transmutation of red desire, increasingly towards the white by the addition of white, which represents the synthesis. So the astral body is increasingly infused by the Buddhi, and rose represents this elevation of desire until it becomes transcendent desire for the higher aspects of our nature. Blue, both ray 6 and ray 2 are involved in the blue, and the second aspect is exalted, and the connection between the sixth and the second is increasingly perfected. And indigo, well, pretty much ray 2 and ray 5 together, which indicates the following of the synthetic or Syrian line of unfoldment. you can see how many different energies are involved in this process and how we have to know them and consciously, proactively use them, directing our efforts towards the understood objective through the use of the energies, the colors, the planets, the signs, the rays made available to us. We don't want these energies to happen to us. We want to direct them, manipulate them, become the divine manipulator, a true adept who can adapt all energies to the purpose in mind. Now let us look at these series of signs, beginning with the first petal. We usually begin with Aries, or perhaps with Pisces on some occasions, as the Tibetan did when numbering signs in the Esoteric astrology book. So if we take the counterclockwise order, which is the natural order of the zodiac as we know it, we wind up with Sagittarius, the ninth sign, related to the ninth petal. And I've said a lot about this already. It's one of the intuitive signs, and it points the way into the synthesis petal and petals and into the spiritual triad. And it's a movement, it involves higher manas, of course, and higher manas can be found working out in the ninth petal process, but also the intuition. So it's a good sign for buddhi manas, and it's a method of moving from manas to intuition. When we understand how Sagittarius works in the world, other than in intense religious devotees, when we relate it to the mind, we find the abstract higher mind, higher manas, the abstract mind, and the intuition blended. Sagittarius is always a good sign for bringing a number of faculties into alignment. So although it's not a sign usually associated with the third initiation, it does contribute to one of the major factors which is achieved at that initiation. That is the ending of the illusion of space and time, at least in a preliminary sense. So although it is not usually associated as much with the third degree as Capricorn is, it can point the way to the intuition, which lies even beyond the third degree. So Sagittarius really is pointing the way into a new realm, into the triadal realm. Sagittarius is the one who journeys forth. We could also find it at the sixth degree, I think, as one is preparing to tread the way of higher evolution, to go forth on an adventure into a new dimension. And here, at the ninth petal, we are poised to enter a new dimension. The triadal dimension, the realm of the intuition, the impersonal realm, the realm in which we can see all things from a vast perspective compared to how we had seen them before. So there are many ways in which Sagittarius can be connected with this petal, but of course also Aries in other ways in relation to being, as we have discussed. If we begin with Aries and move in clockwise order, interestingly enough, we reach the sign Leo. I knew there was a good reason for thinking of Leo in connection with this petal. Leo represents the radiant sunflower of the Egoic Lotus, which is in full expression, the full 9 petals, and an individual standing in transfigured glory as the soul working through the transfigured personality. we can say that Christ shone upon the mountaintop in a great display of light, love, and power. So one of the symbols for Transfiguration is the sun shining just above the mountain. And we can see how much Leo would be related to that image. Leo and Capricorn combined, really. The sun shines on the mountaintop. Leo represents the radiant glory of the opened lotus, the completed 9 in full display. Not the entire lotus, because the jewel has to be revealed and the synthesis petals have to burst open, but still a radiant Leonian display in which we know at this time of Transfiguration that we are that. Thou art that. I am that, not just I am. So a new level of Leonian identity has actually been achieved, and we are identified within the second phase of Leo as the Leonian soul, with intimations of what the spirit may be, which can also be related in its identity to Leo. If we began with Pisces and proceeded in a clockwise order, there's no sense to proceed in a counterclockwise order, because Aries is the sign which indicates that counterclockwise order. We reach Cancer. Pisces, moving clockwise through the signs, will bring us to Cancer, and the vessel is full. 9 is the number of the third ray, and this is the third aspect of the lotus, if we consider all aspects of the lotus without the permanent atoms. So we have the third petal of the third tier, 3 times 3, the 9. This is the completion of the Brahmic development within the egoic lotus, and Cancer is a major sign of the third aspect, as we know, so prominent in the previous solar system when the third aspect was prominent. So if we look at both of these, we have the Cancer and Leo combination. Now, if Leo is excessively strong, of course, the rich young man may have trouble relinquishing his achieved glory. But let's just say that that is, I think, a relatively rare case. So Cancer and Leo together would indicate a combination of the second and third aspects. Second aspect, Leo, Cancer, third, and yet also lots of buddhi coming through Cancer via Neptune. At this point of the Transfiguration, the second and third aspect are combined, and Venus is prominent. Venus, the planet by which, or through which, the combination of the second and third aspect is facilitated. Cancer is always seeking the intuition in the labors of Hercules. This is the doe. He chased the doe of intuition and brought him back to the temple, Cancer. The vessel for buddhi is now completed, almost completed anyway. And one really has built a lighted house and can dwell within it in consciousness, because in the third degree we can choose definitely to focus within the causal body at will. So the numbers 2 and 3, they do blend, and Venus is both heart and mind. Venus has much to do with Manas, and therefore the third aspect, but also so much to do with heart and soul. A Capricorn is both the third aspect and the second. It gives entree into the kingdom of souls through initiation, so that shows its emphasis upon the second aspect, and it's also the third aspect, matter form raised to its apotheosis. Capricorn is giving the key to the mystery of the kingdom of the souls, and we are now a conscious member of the kingdom of souls. That's the sign opposite Cancer, and always the opposite signs have to be drawn into relation. When we find a petal very much ruled by a particular sign, we also have to look at the opposite sign as being significant. So there's a great and glorified moment here. It's a glorified earth moment. The earth, interestingly, being both Ray 2 and Ray 3 having the Ray 2 soul and the Ray 3 personality. So I think we can see, if we proceed counterclockwise or clockwise, we reach significant signs. And I must also mention about Cancer, maybe I will later, that one of the great mantrams is the whole is seen as one. Well, Sagittarius is the ability to see. It is the seer, and when combined with Cancer, the wholeness of things is appreciated. And this is particularly the gift of the third degree, when the single eye, the Shiva eye, is coming into functional operation. The whole is seen as one from the perspective of the unitive soul. When we can enter the causal body at will, we have the ability to see the wholeness of things, the unity of things, and Cancer confers that. Of course, you might also wonder, are we willing to give up the temple? Cancer can cling to that temple, and are we willing to give up our riches, which are represented by Leo? So, since they are derived from a clockwise motion, we might wonder whether they can represent some kind of obstacle to the full release, because Cancer clings, and Leo, it's a higher form of ahamkara, but it can engage the consciousness in such a way that it does not want to give up the riches accumulated through the vast experience of human evolution. Well, we're going to look at all the other signs too, not as derived from the turning of the wheel counterclockwise or clockwise, but simply how they might relate to the task. Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo. We have left out Virgo. I have to see about that. Libra, Scorpio, Sag, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. The only sign left out here is Virgo, which has to do with the cultivation of the light of wisdom and with the true birthing of the Christ consciousness, this time in a new and higher way. Such a degree of purification of the vehicles that the light of Transfiguration can shine through them. So really, you know, since a number of lives can be spent in all these petals, maybe not so much petal 9, because there's a way in which once we reach that stage, a very rapid form of progress is in effect. This is especially so if the second, third, and fourth initiations can be taken in the same life. Page 84 and 85 of Initiation, Human and Solar. Many things to be brought together and compared and correlated, and they will give added light. So we will then we will work upon trying to understand each one of the signs. We've been doing a bit of it already, in relation to the task, the illuminative task, the goal of transfiguration, which is associated with this ninth petal. So, let's begin with Aries. The third initiation is about being, and Aries is particularly the sign which, as the first sign, is connected with pure being. The third initiation is about the monad, which first ray Aries represents. The monad is the great initiator of the journey through the lower worlds. And the third initiation is also the first from the hierarchical perspective. It's the beginning of the monadic culture. Aries has so much to do with this entry into a new realm, the realm of the triad, and breaking into the first aspect of divinity. Aries, the father aspect, which is coming into noticeability with this unfoldment of this ninth petal. So the emergence of the father aspect in relation to the sun, Leo, with Sagittarius helping in lifting the veils of illusion through the evocation of the intuition. All these three fire signs are involved here. But I think that Aries has a particular place in this petal, this ninth petal. The will to be is particularly associated with this sign Aries, and it is at this point that, though not the fullness of that type of will enters, some prompting, some strong prompting of the will to be is experienced. There is the will to know, there is the will to love. All of these have been exercised and perhaps turned into knowledge and love. But this will to be, to live in such a manner as to be, this is perhaps an unusual formulation of thought. But so many of us, while we are, we don't know that we are. We do not understand the primacy of being. And in this petal opening into the third initiation gradually, the primacy of being is sought with a strong will. What about Taurus? Well, I see the greatest light. It is the blinding light of the fixed cross. And although this is not the greatest light, probably that is temporarily of the monad itself on its own plane or beyond, it is relevant. A great light breaks forth in the light of Transfiguration. Also in Taurus, we are said to find the highest form of aspirational idealism, linking it, interestingly, to the third ray, although we do not find third ray in Taurus, but we do find a connection to Earth, which has a strong third ray. Well, the light of substance itself links to the third ray. Taurus here is also the single eye, which is the blue eye, interesting, and the eye of Shiva, which in a sense is the eye of Transfiguration. And this eye appears in a functional manner at the third degree. Taurus with the single eye, and the color of Taurus is said to be deep blue, and this is the blue eye. Taurus connected with Shambhala via Vulcan. The most first-ray moment of the year, in a way, is found at the Wesak festival, ruled by Taurus. So we can see many ways in which this petal of illumination is related to this mother of illumination, Taurus, and to the eye of Shiva, which begins to apprehend the unity, to isolate the unity. I know I dwell within a world of unity. I know all souls are one, says the ancient chant related to the third degree, ancient Atlantean chant, supposedly, according to the Tibetan, used with great effectiveness in those far-off times. One wonders how far off. One wonders how he found the source, the text. Is such material in the libraries of Shambhala? Is it in other, more external libraries, though still well hidden? Such an adventure to take, to encounter, to collect the wisdom, knowledge and wisdom which humanity has generated over millions of years. What about Gemini here? Well, the twins are thoroughly now interrelated. We do really have the soul-infused personality, 75% at least. Pollux shines over Castor. Pollux, the supergiant, and Castor, a collection of three double 3 pairs of stars, making 6. This is in a way the festival of the Christ. The Transfiguration demonstrates the glory of the Christ. The Christ's light is shining in transfigured glory from the mountaintop. And the result is really the blending of the second and third aspect, the soul-infused personality. So we can find a way. In other words, basically what I'm saying is that although certain signs are most related to certain initiations, it is possible to use any sign to facilitate an initiatory process. And if we understand what is our next step ahead and what we're working towards, we can look at our particular prominent signs and see how they can be purposefully used to accomplish the task which we know lies before us. With Cancer, we have the lighted house. Is the lighted house the causal body? Is the lighted house the personality? Really, it's both. One day the lighted house will be the temple of Ezekiel, the great monadic temple. So Transfiguration is the illumination, is the Satori, is the enlightenment, and Cancer represents the lighting of the causal body as that house, as the egoic lotus as that house, which is very prominent at the time of the unfolding of the 9th petal. So we really are dealing not just with spiritual intelligence and mental illumination such as we have at the 2nd degree, but of a full illumination, at least in terms of life in the 3 worlds, a full illumination in terms of the powers of the soul, which are now very rich. Leo is a sign connected with consciousness and with luminosity, and thus with Transfiguration. It's the 5th sign, and the 5th ray, of course, is very prominent at this at the unfoldment of this petal and in the Transfiguration. The realization of the 2nd phase of Leo comes in here with the dominance of the soul, sounding the dominant note musically. I am that. I am the luminous self. I am the higher self. The realization that this is the case, not just wishful thinking, not just the use of mantrams to somehow invoke a realization, but the realization itself. The light of the soul, which is the Leonian light, the radiant light of the soul, is shining more fully than ever. Leo and Uranus come in here, the hierarchical ruler Uranus of Leo, because Leo, Leo is the king, Sanat Kumara is the king. Sanat Kumara is also the Hierophant. He is Uranus. He is the king and he is Uranus. So we are meeting an instantiation of Leo and Uranus in the form of Sanat Kumara, the one initiator, who brings to our energy demonstration a new radiance. So I think Leo can definitely be connected with the 3rd degree. It seems to be connected with every degree. The 1st, the birth of the Christ in the heart, it's a Leo initiation, we know that. The 2nd involves the heart of the sun. The 3rd involves the radiant glory, which is augmented because of contact with the spirit. Leo in its 1st ray mode and Uranus in its 1st ray mode. Leo at the 4th degree because the sunflower is destroyed by the powers of death. And yet the great blaze, the supernovic blaze, comes forth at the 4th degree, also a demonstration of a star dying and yet entering into a higher form of life. And of course Leo is the illumination, the revelation of the 5th degree. It's the 5th sign. It carries the 5th ray as well as the 1st, which rules the 5th initiation. It's so energically connected with the 5th initiation. Maybe there its particular potency might be said to end. We could probably find ways, of course, to connect it with initiation 6 and 7 and so forth, especially with 7, I think, because the solar logos is involved there, and the great second ray, and Leo represents the consciousness aspect of the 3 fire signs. And, this is a really high solar initiation, the 5th degree, and the first Syrian initiation. So I think we can find ways to connect it with the 7th initiation also. But Leo is strong at the 3rd degree, and the people who are approaching the 3rd degree and have a prominent Leo can certainly use it in the senses that I'm discussing. I wonder why I'm looking at Capricorn here. It seems a little premature, but although Jupiter falls in Capricorn, it is in a way exalted. Although Neptune falls in Capricorn, it is in a way exalted. So the highest love or Christ consciousness is found in Capricorn, and with both Jupiter and Neptune playing unsuspected roles, quite different from their ordinary roles as when a man has not yet reached that point of unfoldment. So somehow I interpolated that in there. We'll see where it goes. With Virgo, as I said, not so much, except the light of wisdom is really cultivated here. And somehow the whole idea of polishing the jewel, polishing the gem, tending to the various forms of matter found in the vehicles, so under Vulcan they can truly radiate the light. So an ongoing purification must be occurring, and let's call it purification in the mental realm, particularly, well, maybe not particularly, but additionally, so that illusion may be dispelled. A lot of philosophers are working in Virgo to learn to think so clearly that they can dispel illusion. They may not realize they're doing that, the particular reason for which they're doing it, but that is the effect. I remember my friend James Davis, he did a lot of wonderful research on different professions and their relation to the zodiac, and he found, interestingly, many philosophers with Taurus and Virgo. And we do have that in Socrates, I do believe. There's a strong Virgo component, and certainly he was born in Taurus. So these are both earth signs, but givers of great light, such as the philosopher would seek. What about Libra, in terms of this 9th petal? Well, we have the consummation of the marriage in the heavens with the soul-infused personality. They are now partners, and there's a beauty of relationship between them under Venus. Libra is also associated with supermind, just the way Aquarius with universal mind and Gemini with the ordinary dualistic mind, maybe with soul mind and its relationship to personality mind for Gemini. So beauty of relationship, Libra as supermind, the mind of the triad. Libra is particularly related to the spiritual triad, which is coming into power via the Antakarana, which is certainly built to a significant extent by this time and functional. Libra also suggests the union of spirit and matter, or spirit, the monad, meets the soul-infused matter at this initiation. Libra has that second-ray power to bring things together. Libra is also one of those signs that represents the full third aspect, which is being illumined here through the marriage in the heavens. Rays 3, 2, and 1 all connect with Libra strongly, because after all it is the law as well. So I think in this marriage in the heavens, the consummated marriage in the heavens, we are occurring at this 9th petal. We are meeting with Libra. We're joking here. Welcome to Supermind. You have built your Antakarana, a Supermind theme park. Well, what about Scorpio? You know that Scorpio is active at all the first 3 initiations, and it exerts a peculiar testing potency, probably in this case to overcome mental illusion particularly. There is a fearful conflict at the before the third initiation, and we can imagine that Scorpio, a major sign of conflict, is involved in this. We're finally released from personality control. And at this point, via Scorpio and the confrontation with its three mental heads, we overcome pride, separativeness, and cruelty. I mean, you see, it may be that Scorpio is particularly related to the eighth petal. It is the eighth sign, but it also has a very strong connection with petal number 9, because Scorpio is still active at the third degree. It's active at the fourth too, I think, though, in a death-dealing way, not so much in a testing manner. And you know, Scorpio usually has the distinction of sort of throwing the blanket over the parade, or, you know, sort of raining on the parade, the Leonian parade. Scorpio is always undermining poor Leo and trying to get something better out of the Leo demonstration. But by the time we reach the fifth degree, it's quite different. Leo really is in ascendancy there. And the darkness of Scorpio is over, and the monad has reached a new level of expression. Let's say the Scorpionic monad, because that's what we all are, members of the fourth creative hierarchy under Scorpio, has reached a new degree of radiant expression in Leo. At the sixth initiation, what is happening? Well, DK writes about it quite a bit. The decision which takes us on a journey towards our monadic destiny is made, which it may be another solar system far away, it may be our own solar system, or another constellation far away, or our own constellation. The Pleiades are the ultimate place of return and of destiny. Well, Sagittarius is all about pointing out destiny, pointing where we go, or will go as a monad. Already the sense of our future destiny and direction is being somewhat envisioned at the third degree. It's certainly understood at the fifth, and more clearly in a revealed manner than we can ever understand at the third. And finally, the decision now is made at the sixth. Sagittarius is involved in pointing out the great journey that the monad will make. It points out always a higher vision, and even though we may glory in our egoic Lotus at a certain point of fulfillment, Sagittarius is saying, yes, but look ahead to higher possibilities. You kind of wonder whether Sagittarius can shoot or project the monad in extension straight through the eye of the needle. I know I'm combining a number of images there, but I think you can get the suggestion. So at initiation 5, we will ask what path we should be treading, and the way it is now, by initiation 6, the decision will be made. Well, Capricorn, this is the one. Someone said, yep, this is the one. This is very connected with this petal, because the third degree is taken here, and Capricorn is the quintessential third degree sign. It introduces us not just to the fact that there is a soul and a kingdom of the soul, but into the deeper mysteries of the kingdom of the soul. So all of those Sagicorns out there who have in their chart a blend of Sagittarius and Capricorn, you are ideally suited to make the transition from the aspirant to the third degree, following the correct direction to the actual third degree initiate. And also, of course, Capricorn then will have to be connected with one of the synthesis petals. And it just struck me that although the synthesis petals are connected with, particularly with the last three signs, Capricorn, Aquarius, or Pisces, or maybe with the first three, Gemini, Taurus, and Aries, if we move in reverse order, because they are petals of synthesis, they really have to involve all the signs. So that will be one of the things I have to make sure I do, talking about um, relation of every energy to the factor of synthesis. Haven't done that yet, but it's something that will be worth doing. Obviously, some of the energies are more synthetic than others, but they all can contribute. What about Aquarius here? At the third, well, Aquarius is a third-degree sign. It's a sign in which the third, fourth, and even fifth degree can be taken. I also think the second. I don't know about the first so much. The third degree is often taken in or under Aquarius, entering a more universal perspective. Aquarius is related to the Great Bear and to the universal mind. So, third degree is the first solar initiation, and the solar logos has the consciousness of universality. You can't really separate Leo, in which the sun rules, from Aquarius, in which the sun is in detriment. But every detriment is really an amplified power. And every fall is an exaltation. We've talked about that. So a universal perspective is coming in here from the point of view of the solar logos. And because this is the first solar initiation, that greater perspective is now beginning. And, you know, the oneness perspective. The fact that all things are part of one thing, and really are one thing. All of that is coming to the fore. At this time when the Shiva eye is opening. So we can understand how it is that Aquarius represents the individual, you know, who is the man for all seasons. As it were, Thomas More, great Aquarian, the man for all seasons, he had that sense of universality in terms of what he could accomplish in the world, and is now said to be Master Thomas. At least so he appears in the series of the 3 Initiate books. So the long effort of the soul in Aquarius is consummated and concludes the experience of the disciple upon the fixed cross. This is a form of liberation, and a greater form of liberation comes at the 4th degree, which also involves Aquarius. It's one of those, sometimes you note some really prominent initiates, and you see how much the final signs of the zodiac are involved. I mean, look at Ramakrishna, look at Vivekananda, look at Thomas More, you know. Toward the end there, a number of these signs are involved. I'll bet it was so for Plato as well. I have this sense about Aquarius in relation to Plato. It certainly is true of Krishnamurti, with his Aquarius ascendant. So anyway, the man then takes the 3rd initiation and becomes free from personality control, taking the next 2 initiations upon the cardinal cross. Well, in a sense, yes, but in a sense, no, because DK amplifies that statement and says, really, at the 4th degree, you're not fully on the cardinal cross. It's taken on neither crosses. Now, from one perspective, the what we call the universe is our solar system, and this is the first solar initiation. The word universe in occultism does not always mean the grand entirety. So Leo is involved here as well, because this is the first solar initiation. So Aquarius definitely has its place here as we move into that broader unitive consciousness which gives us the sense of universality. What about Pisces? Well, it's certainly the end of the dominant personality. The old order of the personality is ending. It's the end of the fixed cross. We are dissolving our way off the fixed cross, but from a certain perspective, you know, the utter sacrifice of all forever. Think about the Piscean implications of that. Pisces is the greatest of all signs of sacrifice. But I think maybe relating even more to the 4th degree, where it has a very powerful significance. We become in our own sphere the great sacrifice, he tells us, in relation to the 9th petal. So Pisces and the great sacrifice go hand in hand. I said something about Virgo, that matter shines under the influence of Vulcan, to the purification of matter Virgo laboriously attends. But I think, from different time to time, I've seen it in different perspectives. I think Pisces it must be considered. It is the end of the third aspect of the Egoic Lotus, and we enter through the petals of synthesis the second aspect. So there is a great summation. We're told of Pisces. Pisces takes from all the signs, and there is this great ingathering with this synthetic number 9 before we begin a new cycle with the number 1 or number 10, as it were. So the absorption of all things into the sacrifice petal, I think this will relate well to Pisces. It has that quality of synthesizing all experience, and is a great bridge into the great factor of synthesis, which is related to the synthesis petals, which are primarily Buddhic in their origin, and Pisces is a keenly Buddhic sign with its second and sixth rays. The sixth principle is Buddhi, and the love-wisdom ray, the second ray, is prominent in relation to the Buddhic plane. So I think it's very interesting to consider all these signs. Really what we're doing is, if we're coming to that stage of evolution and we know it and realize it, we can consciously use what we have in the way for which it is best suited to accomplish the task related to the petal, which we now more fully understand. Now the next section is about signs which may be implicated on the basis of the colors that are found. And I was thinking, as we are developing the different petals and we know what the tasks are, it might come forth that we say to ourselves, okay, now it's time to work on the yellow of petal number 9. Now on its orange, now it's rose, now it's blue, now it's indigo, and target our efforts towards what the colors imply, and develop particular approaches which would bring forth the hue, the radiance, the richness of the color, because of the kinds of efforts in which we engaged and our mastery of the tasks related to them. Of course, yellow will connect with Gemini and Virgo, orange with Leo. This is how the Tibetan gave some of these colors in sort of a tabulation at one point. Rose he did not give. He connected with lavender. There is no lavender as we find it in the Egoic Lotus, but rose will connect with Pisces. Blue with both Taurus and Sagittarius, depending upon whether it's deep blue or rich blue. Indigo will connect with Libra. So automatically, certain of these signs of the zodiac are brought into prominence simply because of the colors of the petals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 signs brought in through the colors. And, through certain planetary presences would be brought in that way too. Mercury would be brought in through yellow, Venus through orange, Venus and Neptune through rose, Jupiter through blue, and Venus through indigo. If I left anything out, of course the Earth comes in through blue as well. Mars has a somewhat orange color to it, and a lot of fifth ray. It could come in via the orange as well. Jupiter, Uranus, well, it's more the turquoise, so not so much here, but it's involved in other ways. Neptune I mentioned, and Pluto will be important because we are really ending a period of involvement on the fixed cross, and Pluto always brings cycles to an end. So you can see there are areas of research which we could follow. Now, major constellations, they are the Great Bear, Little Bear, and Canis Major. Really Sirius, but Canis Major is the constellation. So certainly the Great Bear for the fulfillment of the 7 head centers. When we look at spiritual man to the 3rd initiation, we do have the 7 head centers complete. Little Bear may be involved here. It's Polaris. Polaris is in the tail of the Little Bear, and it points towards the monad, which is engaged in this petal for the first time consciously. Little Bear, Leo, Polaris. There's a connection there. And also with the Ajna center, which points the way to destiny. So Polaris is pointing the way to monadic destiny, and that begins to come into some degree of understanding here. So Little Bear is oftentimes substituted for Sirius, and maybe Canis Major as a whole should be considered in relation to Sirius. There's some very powerful and distant stars in Canis Major, much more powerful and much more distant than Sirius. So the overall effect of Canis Major has to be considered as well as the more immediate effect which we have with Sirius, a very neighboring star of a dwarf variety, though much bigger and more luminous than the Earth. Well, with Sirius, we are certainly firmly in the kingdom of the soul. We are actually a mature individual in the kingdom of the soul. At least a rich young man. Is that mature? Well, more mature than just being a young man or being a babe in Christ. It's more mature than that. So we are firmly in the kingdom of the soul, and also the stars, like Sirius, begin to really work in a conscious way at the 3rd degree. DK has told us we cannot come under the true spiritual influence of Sirius in any really significant way until the 3rd degree. We are now, in the sense of having taken the 3rd initiation, we are disciples, really probationary disciples, in the Syrian regime. We are leaving the matter aspect of the Pleiades behind, but from the point of view that they are connected with cosmic buddhi, cosmic fire, right around page 1162, right in there, the Pleiades will be effective. When we are beginning to appreciate buddhi, the Pleiades will be very effective, and certainly at this time when we have brought the abstract mind to a high degree of development and are focused within the higher mind altogether and understand the unity, then the Pleiades in their Buddhic aspect can be said to be coming into prominence. And I would also say the dragon, which is the source of buddhi, will come into prominence. So interesting, you kind of wonder, what is the superior constellation here? Is it the dragon or is it the Pleiades? The Pleiades do have about 1,000 stars. I'm generalizing, maybe 1,000 have not yet been discovered, but I feel it is a kind of 1,000-petal lotus or 960-petal lotus of the head center of the one about whom naught may be said. So the Pleiades, well, even though the dragon seems to be the source of buddhi to the Pleiades, maybe it's not the source of buddhi to the entire constellation of the Pleiades, but only to certain of them. I think it is legitimate to take a huge constellation or cluster like the Pleiades and try to see if there are different aspects to it. Now we have the secondary constellations, as my colleague Nicholas calls them, the extra zodiacal constellations, and I've selected out of the many, although I will review all, Sagitta, the arrow in Capricorn, Delphinus, the dolphin in the second decanate, or related to the second decanate of Capricorn, Aquila, the eagle, the third decanate. Andromeda, the chained woman, the second decanate of Pisces. Canis Major, related to the third decanate of Gemini. And the Great Bear, related to the third decanate of Cancer. Well, with Sagitta the arrow, we know where we are going, and we're willing to take the consequences, the sacrifice which is involved, because part of the road we must travel is the Via Dolorosa, which must be trodden before the way of higher evolution can be trodden. So that's the first. That is, shall we say, related to the first decanate of Capricorn. When it comes to Delphinus, the dolphin, he's the one who helps us cross the water. We're told of Capricorn that he's the one who crosses the water. He jumps out of the water of matter and breathes. He really belongs to the air. He's not a fish. It's so interesting, that we really belong to the air too. We're not really earthlings in any fundamental sense. Our higher home is in the air. The air is God. But he jumps out of the water of matter and breathes the air to which he is more accustomed. There's a relation here between the dolphin and seeking the sun. And I think one of us asked whether the dolphin is some sort of Syrian being or Venusian being. We do know that, or we're told anyway in the secret doctrine, that certain grains come from other planets, and certain animals like the bee comes from a different planet, maybe Venus. So, we're achieving here, between the second and third degree, real mental polarization, and we're no longer speaking in kind of allegorical terms. We're no longer quite so wet. We're certainly disabused of Kamamanus, and we can enter into the higher air. Remember that the cosmic ethers are ruled, in a sense, by air. The air is God. And so the air will dry us of matter. Water and matter are equivalent. Aquila the eagle, well, we're taking initiation. Okay. And in that third decanate of Capricorn, where Aquila is so powerful, it is the initiatory decanate, especially for the third degree. Maybe it's also when one is a Capricorn and impending upon the second degree and even the first, maybe Aquila is also found. All that research has to be done. With Andromeda, it is the chained soul, but we are becoming the unchained soul. Canis Major, of course, because Sirius, at least to us, from our perspective, is the greater part of Canis Major, though when you really look at the magnitude of all the stars involved, Sirius is relatively small in its magnitude. And by that, sometimes the smaller the magnitude, the brighter the star, but I'm talking about absolute magnitude here. A great magnitude of radiance corresponding with a low number. The Great Bear, well, Ursa Major is called the Greater Sheepfold, and we are really entering the Greater Ashram. Which of the monads is ours? Monads have groups as well. We maybe won't know so much about them until we take still higher initiations, but they are in a kind of greater sheepfold. Interesting about the sheep, because it connects with Aries, the ram, with its first ray. Anyway, the will aspect of the Great Bear, will aspect of the rays is coming through the Great Bear, and this is Aries is very much connected with the Great Bear, as is Libra. Aries, Libra, Great Bear, and Aries with this petal, and the Great Bear with this petal also, because the 7 head centers, which receive in a way direct stimulation via Vulcan and the Great Bear, are prominent here at this stage of development, the third degree. The extra zodiacal constellations, they are involved. They cannot be ignored. We cannot skinny things down so much that we forget the complexity of the ambient energies. Now, let's take a look at our decanate table and see if there are any other constellations, extra-zodiacal constellations, non-zodiacal, which can be related to the accomplishments of the ninth petal. Well, Cetus the sea monster is well under control, since the ancient authority of the personality is ended and all the unconscious forces are rendered conscious. Cassiopeia, she's the queen, and she's the material queen, and she no longer sits upon the throne, the soul sits upon the throne. Perseus, we are the hero, and we have overcome Medusa. Aries is very connected here, so when every sign of the zodiac is connected with a particular petal, then the extra-zodiacal constellations connected to the sign must also be connected. So Perseus defeats illusion. He uses the burnished shield of the mind to get his bearings upon the location of the Medusa and its nature, and without staring at her directly, he cuts off her head. So illusion through Perseus is disenthroned, and we realize that this is the petal in which the first major illusion of time and space is defeated. There are other illusions. Along the way they are defeated, and DK has reminded us that until the ninth initiation is completed, we have not really dispelled illusion. And of course, I guess it could go on, because I imagine that compared to the beingness of the one and only, the entire universe is a veil. If we go further, the river of souls, well, we are certainly consciously mastering the incarnational process by this time. Maybe not all, but those who are of the occult nature and who are treading this path, who are conscious occultists, they are more consciously taking their incarnations, and they are part of the reversed flow. The aridness can be connected with the antikarana, or with the sutratma, the flow into life and the flow of life in form, out of form, and into liberation. With Auriga, the speedy charioteer, perhaps the speed of Sagittarius is involved in the beginning of this petal, as we are on the level tableland and approaching via our galloping horse the mountain, which we must climb in this petal. Orion is the symbol of great illumination and also the Christ consciousness of the soul. Orion definitely can be connected here. There are 7 great stars in Orion, 7 great stars in the Bear, 7 head centers. We are able to connect Orion with the transfigured state. With Lepus, the personality can no longer escape, cannot get away, because we really have a dominating position here. That domination already began in relation to the 7th petal. We are told, we learn to control, even in the 7th petal, the personality, but the dominance is very strong here. Canis Minor, we know what smaller ashram we're a part of, and Canis Major, we're becoming definitely a part of the larger ashram of hierarchy. We're in an ashram, and we travel with that ashram on the ship Argo. So all of us who are ashramic members are venturing on a great quest. Again, well, let's see, have I really done that correctly? If I go back, I would say that Canis Minor is all about our aspiring state of mind. And we have that, but it has given way to the star of initiation in Canis Major, the greater dog, and we're definitely confirmed in the Syrian method of initiation. When it comes to the ashrams, I should have spoken here in relation to Cancer. Ursa Minor is the lesser ashram, of which we know ourselves to be a member by this time. and a fuller member once the third degree is taken, and Ursa Major, the ashram, which is the hierarchy itself, and now we are a confirmed, having taken the third degree, a confirmed member of that ashram. Not at its very most heart, of course, but we are a confirmed member. Again, as with Cetus, the Hydra is controlled in Leo. It cannot lead us into Maya, deception, glamour, illusion. Krater, our egoic lotus, has become a definite cup of receptivity, and the Christ force is pouring into it, and the energies of the spiritual triad are animating it. It can contain the higher energies. We, under Corvus the Crow, we can read the karmic signs. We know what are the omens. We know something of the law because we're living more according to that law. Atma and the higher mind are related. Atma and the monastic permanent atom. Atma is the law. And the crow brings testimony to the law. The ego is never, lower ego is never allowed to transgress that law. With Coma Berenices, I would say yes, although it might have been a little hard to find the way Virgo was related here. If we're dealing with the utter sacrifice of all forever, Bernice sacrificed her hair for her husband to return safely from war. So we're learning how to sacrifice the lesser for the greater. Bootes, sometimes a symbol of the Christ, the bear driver, and the one who cultivates the Christ consciousness, who also knows how to reap karmically in the right way. The centaur, well, my wife thinks these should be reversed. Bootes in the third place as the Christ figure, and the centaur in the second place. In any case, the centaur is a great hunter here, and he spears Lupus the wolf, and which is our own personality and nature, and lays it upon the altar, the altar of the soul. So, it's also part of the sacrificial theme. If it's the utter sacrifice of all forever, the centaur is the animal, the being engaged in a sacrificial act here, so that the centaur can become truly the man and the arrow of intuition and so forth. But first the sacrifice must be made. The Southern Cross in Libra, it's all about the development of Christ consciousness. There are some interesting discussions about when that cross has been visible and from what particular latitude, from what particular country. Lupus is our hide, it's our externality, it's the personality which has to be sacrificed on the altar to the second aspect. And we will be crowned. Corona Borealis, the third degree is a kind of crowning, there's a kind of royalty involved with it, but the later crowning comes in relation to Shambhala, with Libra representing the royal road and the Corona Borealis representing the entirely unfolded head center. The serpent, it goes along with Hydra and Cetus. It is mastered by the great healer Ophiuchus, who has learned many things in his quests, just the way those who are developing the ninth petal are rich in their knowledge of the world and its spiritual implications. So the results of their many quests have come home in a type of synthesis. And certainly we are triumphant. We can be triumphant 3 times as Hercules, under Scorpio, triumphant physically, emotionally, and mentally. Now we are triumphant mentally here, because we have overcome, to a significant extent, illusion. And yet we have humility because we kneel, and we lift the Hydra up into the light of day, which is interestingly the type of light associated with Scorpio and with the Buddhic plane, and it, collapses. It becomes weak and is no longer the threat it has been. With Lyra, the falling gripe, I think of it as the falling solar angel coming into incarnation. And certainly our appreciation of what the solar angel has done for us when it fell into incarnation under Sagittarius long ago is balanced by our sight of the solar angel now, again under Sagittarius. The altar of sacrifice, we're always ready to sacrifice the lesser for the greater. It's Aura the altar, and Draco, this time as the source of cosmic Buddhi, or let's call it a major source of cosmic Buddhi, which will make of us eventually a lesser dragon of wisdom, has to be considered in terms of how it conveys the second aspect. These great constellations, they don't have only one ray, neither do we, but they have their monad, their soul, their personality. That goes all through the beings found in this cosmos. The first, second, and third aspect are there. So it sounds like a significant aspect of Draco is on the second ray and conveys cosmic Buddhi, in which we're becoming very interested as we're blending Buddhi and Manas as we take the third degree. I mentioned Sagitta. We're preparing to tread the Via Dolorosa, and Delphinus is giving us the freedom of the soul, because we can exercise soul powers and leave the water of matter behind. Aquila, it is prominent in taking the third initiation. It's the last decade ruled by Mercury, Vulcan, and the Sun, bringing great illumination, luminosity, and power. And Aquila, of course, the great first-ray bird, and it also symbolizes the spirit aspect, the will aspect, which comes in touch with us at this point. Cygnus, the swan, I always think of it as the swan out of time and space, and it relates to the appreciation not just of the three aspects, but of life itself. And it is a huge constellation, and it's spreading its wings here, and something about the life aspect that an arhat appreciates is coming into our understanding once we've taken the third degree. Pegasus, the winged horse, we have left the earth, and we probably have wings by means of which we can fly above the mountain. In one way, in Capricorn, we stand on the mountain. In another way, as Cygnus the swan or Pegasus the horse, we rise over the mountain and do not need to have our feet on the ground to be sustained in the air of God. Pisces, Ostrinus, where we are influenced by the Savior impulse. Not all will tread the path of the world's saviors, but at this point we have such a benevolence towards humanity once we've taken the third degree. With the band in Pisces, the soul has captivated entirely. The personality, its authority is over. It is bound, utterly bound. Andromeda, the chained woman, is the woman unchained, because the soul is now in the majority. And Cepheus, Sanat Kumara, the king, is in sight. And his energy is now released in a moderate way, but still in a significant way, into our consciousness and into our energy system. When we achieve the fifth degree, Cepheus will really emerge, and we too become the master and the king. Oh, they're so interesting, those extra zodiacal constellations, are they not? I find them. And the more you go with them, you realize that, yes, of course, the average person can also receive something of their nature. It will not be in the full archetypal sense, but it will bear the signature of what that extra zodiacal constellation really brings. So I think, under the circumstances here, I think it may be useful to bring this little program. I could just find a red bracket. Looks like I'll have to make one. Bring this to an end and go on with number 37 at the next occasion, which I hope and trust will be soon. So this is the end of Egoic Lotus webinar commentary program. What is this program? I guess I'm going to say that it's 58. I'll correct it if it's not. So it's part 2 of Synthesis for Petal number 9, and we will be beginning of Egoic Lotus webinar commentary program 59, which will be part, what did I call it? I called that part, if it should be part 2, I'm going to call this part 3 of the Synthesis for Petal number 9. It's so interesting to me. The great thing would be, of course, to have the kind of facility with these energies that one could summon them and direct them towards the target which represented for the individual the next step ahead in the particular petal which he had isolated as being the petal in which he's working. So, you can get a synthetic picture, but can you use it? Can we use it? That's the question. Can we use it? So now maybe we'll have some practice sessions in using these things, maybe some kind of example about how to use a particular energy to accomplish a task in a particular petal. That would be the practical side, wouldn't it? Okay, everybody, we'll get on to program 59. I hope and trust it is that. If not, I'll correct it. See you soon.